Underworld, A Practical Guide to Necromancy. This is the second edition, released in the last couple weeks by Theion Publishing. I had read this initially, I guess it's been about 2 or 3 years when it first came out, or when I first got my hands on a copy, I should say. And I will give a disclaimer that this book is much more on the historical and informational side rather than ritual. It does say A Practical Guide to Necromancy or Communing with the Dead, but again, it's a very good read and I enjoy it. I'm going to keep this in my collection, but it is, again, going through the history of various cultures and their views of the underworld, chthonic gods, and then the last part, necromancy, kind of gives you a brief overview. Now, I will say I think these are very good topics to address, but it's only 20 pages of the 230. So, again, a very, very small amount of this book is devoted to practice, which is fine. One thing that's changed with the second edition is these beautiful papers here. See, it's got all the skulls and everything mixed in. I really like how they've included these for each section. Celestial and Infernal. Gives a little introduction and how people and cultures have viewed death over the years. Coffee's ready if anybody wants any. And it does have a few pieces of art mixed in here as well. Not a whole lot. So nice otherworldly drawing there. Underworld of Babylon. And I really like the paper. It's not thin, but it's not overly thick. And it's got a very nice off-white color, which is extremely pleasant to read. Greco-Roman, Hades, probably one of the most, if not the most well-known underworld views. Vedic tradition, Germanic tradition, and then we'll skip ahead here a little bit into some of the actual gods. And this is, for those of you who aren't too familiar with Theion Publishing, they're very well established, but they don't get as much press as some of the other publishers, I suppose. But they also made The Infernal Mask, The Benighted Path, and Cult of the Black Cube, which is one I always recommend highly. And since we just reviewed Saturn Rising, the combined version with Into the Void that was also just released in a second edition. Hope everybody's been saving their money. A lot to buy right now. This would be a very good book to kind of also tie in to those readings. Just because, again, if you're dealing with Saturn, you're dealing with death. And this is a book that very much falls in line with that. One thing that also I really enjoy about this book, of course, there's Odin, is when you do get to the end here, you see here offerings, images, example of ritual. When you do get to the end, let's see here, I got down too far. When you do get to the end and you get into the actual practice portion of it, it talks about communication rituals, dream states, soul travel rather, and it also talks about setting up a shrine and different practices. So you can go back depending on your culture or whichever deities are calling to you. You can go back to earlier in the book, reference some of their offerings and ritual, and use those in your practice to create a shrine or whatever else you have in mind. So again, overall, this is a very good book. It's one that I recommend. It's not going to be a full-on grimoire, but it makes an excellent companion to any library, especially if you are somebody who works with or studies different death cults. As always, thanks for watching, and please feel free to share.